Hi, this is János, it's Real World Audio, and I'm sharing something very special with you. And imagine, today I just received a big, huge box in the mail. So this is going to be a surprise unboxing video. And if it contains what I hope it contains, then this is something that was made entirely possible due to all your Buy Me a Coffee donations. So let's open it up. Can I lift it? I think you are not seeing any of that, so let me adjust the camera. This is probably the wonkiest unboxing video ever made, so let's just try to adjust here, maybe like that. Can we see some more? Now you cannot see me. Yeah. So now, oh, look at that. So it's pretty long. You still cannot see anything. Maybe now. Wow, this is some very nice packaging material. But now you can see that those look like a pair of transformers. That's very suspiciously transformer looking objects in there. And pretty big and heavy ones. Look at that. That is a substantial piece of transformer there. Okay. Let's get rid of the plastic here. Okay, you're not seeing anything. I'm just cutting off the plastic. Ooh, what is that? Wow, look at that. Can you believe it? It is an amorphous core double C core output transformer. Really nice. And this is how you can tell it's a double C core. You see, this is one C core and that's the other C core. And from the other side, you can see that the C core is made actually by a single sheet of transformer material wound around, hundreds and hundreds of layers, and then they cut it in half. If it focuses there you see, in the middle, there you can see that it's been cut. So the entire stack of laminations is cut in half, and then they get the coils, and then they just put the two halves of the C core around the lamination. And there's one C core around one half of the coil and another C core around the other half. But then you notice that the C cores, they cover most of the coil, but part of the coil is sticking out, so there is no lamination on this side. And that's not just a problem for C-core laminations, it's basically a problem for every single transformer design, that there's part of the core that is not protected by any iron at all or any transformer material. So it means that whatever magnetic lines are formed around the coil, those are not amplified by the transformer core. And some of you would say, oh, okay, toroid transformers take care of that problem because then the toroid runs across. But then the problem is that, yeah, then you get a uniform layer of the toroid and the wires run around that, but then that's kind of like having half of the C core going perfectly around, but the entire half is completely missing. So that's the thing with toroids, that half of the transformer material is perfectly uniform, but the other half is missing. And here we have two halves which are imperfect. So none of them creates perfect magnetic lines. Each of them have their own pluses and minuses. And yeah, so that's about it. So what this is, so this is an output transformer, and as you can see it here, they wrote on it that it's an 8 kilo ohm primary and 4 8/16 ohms secondaries. And there's also something written on it in Chinese. You'd see that? Yep, so I got this transformer from China, because even with your generous Buy Me a Coffee donations, if I want amorphous core, double C core transformers of this size, even like putting together all the Buy Me a Coffee donations I ever received, I couldn't have afforded this transformer in a Tango version or European or American version transformers. They are like an order of magnitude more expensive than these Chinese made transformers. And I'm just really curious how good they are, how they would compare to a Western world made transformer. And the part for that is, I think, it's very interesting, because actually what the company says, I got this from AliExpress, very reputable source. So there's a Chinese company, and they make these lamination. I mean, they don't make the laminations. They take used British transformers, and they take them apart and they reuse the British cores. So these are actually British core transformers, and they use their own winding techniques, the super advanced winding techniques. I really have extremely strong suspicion that they have the original plans of high quality transformers, and they are applying those winding schemes to roll out their own windings. Essentially, they are making coil replicas using very, very sophisticated technology, and extremely cheap labor, and that's why this transformer actually, it was about $165 for the pair of it, and the shipping was the same, which if you order anything from China nowadays, for me, I live in Hawaii, which is part of the United States, one of the states of the United States, and if I buy anything local, even if I have to ship it like even within Hawaii, within the state, the shipping cost of me like ordering these would be cheaper to order it from China than to have it shipped to me from 20 miles away. So that's how strange the world is today, that the shipping costs from China are just almost non-existent on anything you buy. So there's some very strange trade agreements going on, and I don't understand how this truly works. But in this case, imagine with those prices that you usually see, for these transformers, the shipping was actually more expensive than the transformer itself. So that just tells you about the significant weight of this unit. So that's what it is. And now I won't unwrap the other transformer, but it's the same thing, or at least it should be the same. And it looks like it is the same. I'm just going to pull it out. Okay, I think it is the same. Yeah, same weight. So why did I get these transformers? What was happening here? I think some of you might have guessed already that I'm going to put these into my single-ended amplifier downstairs, which is my main single-ended amplifier. And the reason for that, some of you would say, okay, János, you are doing that because you are upgrading your EI laminate core to a C core, to a permalloy C core. And of course, when someone does that, what you can expect is much better low-level detail handling capability, and it's just a way more refined sound. And that is partially because of the C core, because for the C core, the transformer, the lamination has a really nice oval shape. So it follows the magnetic lines very, very well, very, very smoothly. And when you have the EI core laminate transformers, there the EI cores are 90 degrees angles for the parts, for the legs of the transformer, and that's not how the magnetic lines work. Magnetic lines, they bend around in a really nice smooth shape, and they don't want to break at 90 degrees angles. So that's why a C core is superior to the EI core, because there the magnetic lines, they obey much better. They can be transitioned from the electromagnetic field into magnetizing the domains inside the laminations in a much more perfect, much more uniform fashion, and much better distributed fashion. And the other thing is that with this kind of winding technique, I mean lamination making technique, with the material, the laminates are way thinner. These are like paper thin, and this thing is like really brittle, and it chips, and it's like shards of glass, like really fine glass, like hair thin, actually thinner than your hair thin pieces. And it's really fragile, so you have to be careful. Do not just drop it on hard surfaces. But the good thing about is that is so thin is that the thinner the lamination, the more sensitive it is to low-level magnetic signals, and you have less losses. So when you have a really thick laminate, really thick layer, then there are losses within that layer occurring. And then the thinner you make it, then you have less loss occurring, because the domains are really forced to be created at a perfect plane, and they cannot just create like mini eddy currents, mini magnetic loops within the layer. So that's one thing. However, to be honest with all of you, I'm always honest, man. I don't know why people say that when they have something really dramatic to say. Okay, no, so I'm just rephrasing it. Now I have something really dramatic to say, is that normally people do such upgrades because they are missing something, and oh, now I want to take my system to the next level. And however, for me, I did not feel that was the case with my single-ended amp. I didn't feel that I was missing anything. Even while I know that transformer is not the best transformer of the universe, there are much better ones than that, but it was still such a good mesh. It synergized so well with the system that I didn't feel the need to get a permalloy core. And also, before, I wouldn't have been able to afford such a core at such a size. And what do I mean by the size? So by the size I mean that as many of you have noticed in my videos, that I love to oversize my output transformers. So for example, in that single-ended amplifier, it's just putting out 1.2 watt per channel, and I'm using a 25 watt core for that. And that has positives and negatives, but for me, why I was doing that, my main reason is to avoid even the hint of amplifier clipping. And you would be kind of surprised that when you have an amplifier that is like 1.2 watt per channel, the headroom you have for the amplifier is not just, not mainly restricted by the power rating or power capability of the vacuum tube, but it's much more restricted by two things. Number one, the power supply, and number two, the output transformer. So if you have like a 1.2 watt per channel single-ended amplifier and you have like a 2 watt rated output transformer, then that 2 watt output transformer would clip. That would clip first, and that would be saturating the first for that system. And why do I say saturating the first? That's because when you look at studies where people are not driving resistors, but they are driving actual loudspeakers, there are extremely few studies done like that. Actually, I have seen only one study that was done by Audionaut, who actually done measurements with that, and myself, I haven't measured it before, but I have observed it with my ears, and I have vastly suspected that there is a physical reason behind my observation, and there is. So this sounded very mysterious, but there's no mystery in it at all. So this is my observation, probably not just mine. Everyone has observed that when you have a single-ended tube amplifier that's rated at, let's say, 8 watts, that sounds as loud and as powerful as a 20-30 watt push-pull amplifier, if the amplifier is properly done. And I mean by that, the same amplifier maker using similar skill level and execution level creates a single-ended amplifier and a push-pull amplifier. Then the single-ended amplifier sounds louder and more powerful than its power rating would suggest. Why is that? And the reason for that is that when using loudspeakers which are low current, high sensitivity, high efficiency, high impedance loudspeakers, they actually, into these loudspeakers, the single-ended amps can put out much more power than their rated power. And Audionaut was showing that they did a measurement like that, and their 8 watt per channel output 300B amp, I forget which one was that, it did put out 80 watts into the loudspeaker. When they measured it with a resistor, it puts out 8 watts into the resistor, but with the loudspeaker, bang, it could put out 80 watts. So that's the reason why single-ended amps sound more powerful than what their watt rating says, provided that you match it with the right loudspeaker. If you match it with a high current loudspeaker, no, it will struggle and it won't be able to put out that much more power into that, because it cannot drive it well. But when you have a loudspeaker that matches well with a single-ended zero feedback amplifier, then actually you can enjoy a lot more power than what is nominally available when you measure it with a resistor. And when we look at a push-pull vacuum tube amplifier into there's something really loud outside, when you match it with the same kind of loudspeaker that's designed for tube amplifiers, it puts out more power than it measures with a resistor, but not like 10 times more, just twice as much, maybe 2 times, 3 times as much. And when they add a solid state amplifier, drive the speaker with the solid state amplifier, the solid state amplifier puts out less power into the loudspeaker than it puts out into the resistor. So that's why the power ratings and how we measure and we judge amplifiers based on what they do with the resistor, they always felt like bogus to me, and they are bogus because what they do with the resistor is very different from what they do with a loudspeaker. And also here you can find out that whether you have a good match of a loudspeaker for your amplifier, for your tube amp or not, is that if you have a bad match, then it won't be able to put out more power into it than what it puts out into a resistor. And yes, that's the kind of speakers that most people use, because that's what is mostly commercially available, and that's why people struggle with the power output of their single-ended amplifiers, because those speakers, most of the speakers are made for amps that put out like 100 watt or something like that, and they are just current hungry. And when a speaker is current hungry and it has a bad impedance match to the amplifier, to the power amp, then the single-ended amp won't be able to drive it properly. So then why did I get these transformers? So eventually my reason to get these transformers, let's check out the time, 22 minutes, we are still okay. The reason was that the transformers that I have in my amp now, I love those and they are great transformers, but unfortunately they have a 6 ohm secondary tap. And that was perfectly fine for the Mirages. It was really good for my void pipes when I had the 8 ohm Fostaxes in them, but they are not good at all for the voice over Lancelots, which are 16 ohms, and the AOs are also 16 ohms. So those small paper cone drivers that I have, those are also 16 ohm speakers. And guess what? Guess, guys, what? So here I have with me the Cube Audio FC8. These are also 16 ohm drivers. I think I have not emphasized this enough in my previous videos, but yes, these babies are also 16 ohm drivers. So it is high time to have something with proper impedance to drive them correctly, and that will result in something quite peculiar. So right now that amplifier puts out 1.2 watts into the 16 ohm speakers because there is a great impedance mismatch. And when I will change it into these cores, the KT66s in single-ended mode with 700 volts on the plate, they will be able to put out about 10 watts per channel. So we are going to see like an order of magnitude higher power output with an order of magnitude increased low-level detail handling and a lot better bass control, deep frequency controls. So it's going to be a very interesting experiment. I'm really looking forward to doing that change. And yeah, so again, thank you for your absolutely phenomenal support that made it possible for me to get these babies. And it will be a beginning of a beautiful friendship with the amplifier, and I'm just really curious how these transformers work out, and I've seen that they have like 96 more pairs of these transformers available if anyone wants to buy. Unfortunately, I cannot really put any direct link on what these transformers are because there's no such, and AliExpress has an outstandingly bad search engine, like really bad. So I knew what I was looking for and I found them, and when I tried to find them again, it took me 3 days to find it again because the search engine is absolutely horrendously bad. But I'm trying to put down as much details as I can so that you can find it, and maybe I can even put in a link for that if YouTube allows, I don't know. However, there's one more thing. Why am I playing around with these AliExpress transformers? It was because of Edward Brockman. He has a fantastic YouTube channel on audio, and he was the one who told me about this source that AliExpress has these remade British transformers, and they are just crazy cheap prices, just insanely cheap, like and that makes these affordable. So basically the price that these transformers came, that was the price of an entry-level rock bottom transformer. So they are actually cheaper, I would say not cheaper, exact same price as the ad cores that I am replacing. And we'll see how the two will compare to each other. So thank you, Tim, and thank you for joining me for this fun unboxing episode. I hope you enjoyed it as much as I did. Have an awesome day. Bye bye.